still use some of this, but if you have any questions, feel free to shout them out, and I will work on those as well. So we've got 2 half slates. I'll talk about the full slate. We'll go game by game. With on such a small slate, it's actually pretty easy to talk about basically every fantasy relevant player because there aren't that many of them, and not much injury news either. So I don't think we'll be having a weekend show, but I can pretty much cover all of the injury scenarios on one show. So with that being said, we will. If Bobby shows up, he shows up, but if not, the show marches on. The first game of the divisional round. It is Minnesota versus San Francisco. Minnesota coming off of that massive upset, the biggest spread of the wild card round, and nearly the biggest spread of the entire playoffs so far. We got 2 that are just over 8 here. But first, we have a 7-point spread. The Vegas odds keep doubting Minnesota. It is San Francisco -7 at home. A 44-point total has come down a point. So, I mean, this game is pretty simple on the Vikings side. You've got, I think, Kirk Cousins. The way they run the ball so much, even in close games, and I think even reasonably if they're down, I could see them running the ball because of how prolific Dalvin Cook has been. I'm not really looking to get into much Kirk Cousins. I think there are better cheap options with higher ceilings. Even in this game, Jimmy Garoppolo, one of only, I believe, 4 quarterbacks with 3 games of 4+ passing touchdowns. He's for how kind of bland his style of football is compared to the Lamar Jacksons and the Patrick Mahomes of the world. He's got a ceiling, man. He's got a pretty solid ceiling on the year. So in this game, I'd rather go with a guy like Jimmy G. And I think his stacking options, both on DK and FanDuel, are well underpriced. On DK, the best single play, unless we get news on Mark Ingram, the best single play right now is George Kittle, just on a points per. He's the number 1 receiver on a very efficient offense, and he's 6,200. He is the most. He leads the league in tight end receptions. He because he missed, I believe it was 2 games with his injury. It won't show up on the raw counting totals, but he also leads the league in yards after the catch, which he led last year. I believe he set a record for yards after the catch last year, since things like that have been tracked in cash on both sites. I think he is a priority. And honestly, even in tournaments, I'm just going to be jamming him in because I'm going to have a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo. And because of how much of the team's touchdowns, the team's yardage specifically, and the team's receptions that George Kittle has accounted for, I don't know how you can get away from him if you're playing Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just the odds of Jimmy Garoppolo going off without George Kittle seem so minimal. So it's difficult for me not to stack those 2. And outside of that, I think both Sanders and Debo are fine. But when you look at what Debo has done this year, especially with his rushing production, there's Bobby. He is, I believe, the 3rd most rushing yards for a rookie wide receiver in the history of the NFL, trailing only DJ Moore and Tyreek Hill. He's that explosive of a playmaker. Hey, you decided to show up, buddy.
Very good.
I was just hopping into the 49ers game.
Oh, really?
Sorry about that. So I was saying I find this to be interesting. Deebo Samuel, the 3rd most rushing yards by a rookie wide receiver in the history of the NFL, trailing only Tyreek Hill and DJ Moore. He's a mega athlete who is getting involved in numerous ways and making the most of those plays. One of my favorite plays of the slate. And I really like stacking the 49ers and maybe just a single run back from Minnesota like a Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Which 2 QBs are you playing on Saturday and Sunday? I'll take the 2 on Sunday. You can take the 2 on Saturday.
Well, that still leaves out a few quarterbacks, so we might have to get a 3rd
header now.
We got to get one more person involved, and they'll clean up the last of that ownership. They probably won't even need to use all the lineups.
Yeah.
Did you were you watching that basically live as it happened? Twitter was, I mean, it still is. This is the best content we've gotten all year. If anybody doesn't know,
I feel like it's no one's fault but the site operators. I think they should just pay these people. Obviously, it happened, but
yeah, we can talk about it real quick for anybody. No
one's fault but the site operators. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, it is 2 players who just happened to be. 2 players. It was one player who happened to be a former contestant on the Bachelor or Bachelorette. I get them mixed up. I even watch. He entered his 150 into the millie and made, supposedly, allegedly, his girlfriend made 150. But the way their lineups are, obviously they correlated in a way that is not normal for 2 people to do. Very clearly overlapped in a way that seems cheating. Yeah, and then they got outed by a fellow Bachelor friend, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to. The ins and outs are like kind of tough to like. It's more for me like, it's just these people got caught, but they're not the only ones doing it. Like,
Yeah, someone posted
so
like lineup correlations, and they weren't even the most correlated on the slate. There was one pair of
no, yeah, and that
player
person won.
pools.
That person won in 2017. That person won the world championship on DK, like,
Yeah.
or like the fantasy football world champion. It's just like it's been going on for so long. It's just these
Mhm.
people are some semi high profile, and it's just easy to point the finger at them. Like, obviously what they did was wrong, but you got to point the finger at the sites, in my opinion. Like, it's all the sites. The sites have been allowing this. Once the ruling on Papa Gates and Chipotle Attic came out 5 years ago, whatever, that was pretty much it. It's been a free for all. Like, if you can do it and you have the money to do it, people do it. Like, it definitely happens. It happens every day. So,
Yeah, like you as a player, you shouldn't be doing it, but as a site, like you've made
you
it
shouldn't
so
be doing
easy
it,
to
but I
cheat.
think it gets to a point where like I feel like people that if you get into a position where it's like what am I going to do if this is happening and it's visually evident and you complain so much and then the site doesn't do anything. Like
Yeah,
I think
sites
that people have
have
gone to it.
been obviously ignorant, intentionally ignorant of this problem.
Intentionally. FanDuel knows everything. FanDuel, like, you can't even see what's going on. So at least DraftKings you can see. This guy, I think the Bachelor who won, I don't want to. The husband had won on FanDuel previously. That's how he got them. That's what people are saying. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, don't quote me. I don't want to be the person.
Yeah, and like these are just the people that got caught, assuming they are technically called as caught. These are just the people who got caught. I'm like you said, top players who
Yeah,
are
they're
winning.
just the people that got caught. Like, I feel like it goes. If you look at, I look at lineup study every morning. Or results DB every morning. Like, it's pretty easy to see like who's doing what. If you know what's going on, like, it's pretty easy to see that. Like, for me, it's like, where did they learn how to do this, right? Like, who taught them this? You know what I mean? Like, how did he come into that knowledge? Because like for me, it's just like where they don't really, I don't, they not really much in the industry. Like, obviously it can be thought about, but just to learn how to do that, like correlate your lineups. They didn't do a great job of it, obviously, because it's pretty blatant and egregious. But it's like, where do they learn how to do that? Because I feel like only like true grinders really know how to do that. You know what I mean? Like, and do it like cleanly. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because they had they made 300 lineups and they either had one or two overlap lineups and they were both within each other's set of 150. They didn't cross pollinate their lineups at all, which means at least in terms of covering the bases they wanted to cover, they did it mathematically almost perfect.
Yeah,
They
so
learned how to apply this skill in a very technical way.
yeah, and like you can do this like every night. There's a split, right? Like tonight, for example, like in NBA, you had to make a decision on pretty much Bobby. Well, actually, it's a bad example. Last night would be a better example. It was like Harry Giles or Kevin Knox were two lower owned guys, and if you just like you had to make a decision on whether they were going to be two pretty highly owned guys, and you had to figure out who was the bad chalk, and they both like could have been bad chalk, but they were in a really good spot. So if you have 150 lineups, you can go each way on both. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty like I just want to know, like, where did the extra lineups give you that extra pivot? I think it was really telling. Like, in the breakdown, John Brown and Michael Thomas were the like chalk receivers or whatever, and they were pretty much with the field on those guys. And then where they took like stands, it looked like were obviously the tournament pivots that could beat those guys. And it's kind of separated within that ownership. If you break it, it's pretty interesting. But people know how to do that. Like, it's just,
Yeah, they're symptoms of a larger problem of people.
that's
They're
pretty
not the only people who
like,
know.
everyone, we're gonna blame them, but like, look at everyone else in this industry, and like, it's not. I don't even blame people in the industry. I blame the sites, because the site operators, like I said from the beginning, allowed this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not only have they allowed it, but it's not like they were like, oh, we didn't know you
Knight
could do
was a
this.
good play.
Clearly they did know and have known for years, like you said, since Papa and Chipotle, that this is possible, and
They made that ruling, and then like it was a free for all.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's a money thing. They just don't care. Like they're not penalized. Like how many of your casual, like if you have casual sports guy fans who are just shooting off one entry into the millie even know of what we're talking about?
No, yeah, it's like everyone hand builds, so they don't understand it's actually
exactly.
Like, it's really a surface level way of playing. Like pros are playing pretty much building stock portfolios around a given slate, like with optimizers. So it's just like it's so much different, dude. It like
but if they don't like ban these players or do anything about it, pros are going to keep playing, and the average person
I feel like they don't have
a
move because if they don't pay them, I feel like they're going to get sued both ways. Like I can't figure out. I've been flip flopping back and forth on what their move is. Like I don't know what their move is. Like hopefully it dies down, but it won't die down.
Yeah. See, I don't like. Yeah, they will definitely get sued either way, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I mean, I guess it depends how you prove it, but it seems pretty obvious that they violated the terms of service, and that like nullifies any winnings. They'll still get sued, but would they win that suit? I would say DK probably would, but like I don't know. At that point, it kind of goes.
I feel like in the end, DK is just going to do what's in the best interest of like DK and their investors and stuff, and that's fine. Like that's obviously their prerogative. I just think that I don't at this point because this has gone on for so long. Like it's just like a matter. This is like the tip of the like. I don't know, dude. If you really dig into this, like this is bad. If like the FBI comes knocking and they're digging into this is really bad.
Yeah, I think like when we talk about that, they're just the ones who got caught, and it probably is a decent amount because of like relative to like just a bunch of dudes sitting around computers. They are high profile relative to basically the rest of the entire industry.
Yeah, everyone that's pretty much playing outside of them is like is a computer geek. It's just like I don't mean to say that, but
what if? Oh man, this is a great bit. What if this was Andrew Yang? Doesn't he play DFS?
If it was Yang, we'd be in yeah. Does he? I heard he does. I'm learning.
Yeah, I think so.
Hold on, I gotta get my charger.
Yeah, presidential candidate Andrew Yang. I believe he follows some of the bigger DFS.
Yeah, I think he follows like CSU and stuff.
Yeah, so I think he at least plays or is aware of the DFS scene. What if this was him? Oh my god,
he definitely plays basketball. I think.
Okay. Yeah, important stuff to talk about. Let's hop back into the main slate.
He'd be smart enough to do it with the math whole gig. He knows the math, so
that'd be amazing.
People it's like all based off exposure, right?
Dude, it was like whoever we could predict whoever he plans on being his running mate should he get the Democratic nomination by who his lineup is most correlated with. It's like, oh, he cheated with his running mate.
Yeah, that's probably a good point.
All right. Any interest in San Francisco, Minnesota?
Emmanuel Sanders, Debo, run it back with Dalvin.
Yeah,
I like that. Quarterbacks here. Like it'd be interesting if I was splitting up my 150. I don't know if I'd be playing a lot of Kirk Cousins, but pricing will probably make you have to get on him, right?
I would much rather go Jimmy G. He actually has like a few spike weeks to his name. He has, I believe, 3 games of 4+ touchdowns. I mean, it's not awfully surprising when you put him with dudes like Manny, like Debo, like Kittle. So I actually don't hate him. I think he's actually, I mean, of the cheap, boring quarterbacks of your guys like him and Kirk and whomever, he'd be my guy for sure.
Yeah, that's fine. I get that.
Yeah, and he's how much? He's on DK. He's 5,600. Is he the cheapest? Him and Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill's a pretty good price. Yeah, of the low price quarterbacks, it'd be pretty easily him because also they have like a pretty solid total. It's like 25 and a half is right around third on the slate.
Yeah, I don't mind that play. Like I think that's a good. He's like, I kind of got to pull up some more stuff.
Also, right now I'm looking at George Kittle as the best points per dollar play, and he's probably going to be massive chalk, like obviously. So I think if you want to play Kittle, getting different with your Kittle lineups by playing Jimmy, who I doubt will be very popular, mean, that's how you do it, right?
That would be one way. Another way would be stacking him with the receivers, Sanders, Debo. My stuff's just freezing up on me. I'm sorry. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Yeah, that's fine. Do you think so? I guess my only question from that would be: would you consider playing a Kittle Debo stack without the quarterback?
Is Kittle going to be like egregiously owned?
I would imagine so. Like one, I'm looking at him as the best, just points per dollar play at the flex right now on DK, and he's at tight end where there's like 3 good options on the slate. So
yeah, I get it. Like he's not. I'm getting more like. Yeah, I don't know. There's going to be a bunch of different ways you can kind of. What about playing like a guy like Kyle Juszczyk at 3,100? I know that's.
I mean, like I don't know. I guess that would be a like a showdown or 2 game like the Saturday.
No. I'm just saying. Yeah, I just ran a couple optimal. Hold on a sec. I don't know. That was like a really bad take just to jump into this. Yeah, Debo. I don't know. I just don't have ownership. I can't. My ownership's not coming up, so I can't really see.
Let me see if I can pull up ownership real quick. But yeah, so I guess back to my question: would you consider, just like from a roster construction standpoint, playing George Kittle and Debo without Jimmy Garoppolo? Because Garoppolo,
yeah, you can do that on a 2-game slate.
Yeah.
What's Garoppolo's ownership?
Right now, I am looking. I don't have.
I think Mahomes is probably going to be the highest owned, then Lamar.
Let me see.
Jimmy. I brought up Juszczyk. I was just talking about differentiation between like a stack. It's not like he is popping pretty hard in optimal that I'm pretty.
Wait, are you saying Juszczyk isn't? You're saying
what?
You're saying George Kittle is popping in optimals, not Juszczyk, correct?
Oh, Juszczyk is at 3,100.
Wow. Seriously?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
I mean, like, if that is the case, I doubt anyone's going to play him because he's literally a fullback. But
he catches a lot of passes.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. That would be a way to do it. Like, he literally got 7.
It's a 2-game slate, so like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's actually I like that.
I don't like it, but
I mean, like, as a differentiating thing, especially.
That's what we were talking about, right?
Like, I'm not playing in cash or whatever, but like, he had a 7-target game versus the Cardinals.
Yeah, they're paced up though, so
still.
I'm trying to pull ownership from something. No one has it.
Yeah, okay. So I have Labs ownership right now. Kittle is like north of 25%.
All right, I have ownership up. It should be easier now.
Yeah, I don't have UF right now, but yeah. And on the other side, I think there's like 3 plays that are like even viable. Obviously, like Dalvin Cook. Like, I guess, I don't know. You could bet on another Kyle Rudolph touchdown.
I have Damian Williams like egregious chalk.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think he'll be the chalkiest player of the slate, probably, depending on how tight end breaks down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. On the other side,
it's pretty highly owned.
Yeah, I'd go Dalvin Cook on the other side, and I probably wouldn't really even consider playing the wide receivers.
Yeah.
All right, top into our next game. Vegas. We have, this is a funky one. We've got Baltimore versus Tennessee. Baltimore 10-point favorites, 46.5-point total. This one has dropped 1.5. The total has since opening. I mean, you've got Ryan. I mean, even as far as the Titans winning last week, they won in a pretty ugly fashion. They scored 2 offensive touchdowns, or did they just score 1? Either way, though, like they were not putting up points on offense. They just didn't have to because the Patriots are washed.
Yeah, Derrick Henry I can't believe he wasn't in the Millionaire Maker lineup last week. People just didn't want to play him because it's not a PPR site. If that's the case this week, he seems like he's going to be around where he was projected to be around last week. Like it's definitely a different defense, so I'm not really in a rush to roster him. But I don't hate him as a tournament pivot. He's not someone I'm going to play in cash.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm probably not. I don't know. I hate to say I'm just going to get off him again because he's just punished me every single week. Although apparently you didn't need him to make the millie. But like you said, this is a different defense, and I do think they're like the Ravens are just a different beast from New England. Whereas like New England, they hung in with New England and won. Obviously, they were close the whole game. If they're actually 10, like if 10-point dogs is a fair line for the Titans, I can't imagine how they run the ball, which would just have me playing a lot of AJ Brown, who crushed people last week in terms of anyone who rostered him. He got like one catch. And like that's going to happen with a guy who gets 6 targets a game or whatever. But I'm willing to bet that the targets go up from 1 last week. And when you get a guy with AJ Brown's playmaking ability, I'll always be on that.
Yeah.
And I think on the other side, like Lamar Jackson, I don't know. Are you going? I don't think I'd be going. I guess your choice is like where are you going to pay up? I'm not sure if I'd be paying up for Jackson like 8,400 on a slate with like a pretty solidly priced Patrick Mahomes, some lower options. Are you looking at Jackson in cash?
I always like the extra leg equity, like rushing equity. He's 8.4 though, so I don't know if I'd be on him in cash. I'd probably just go Mahomes at 7.5.
Yeah, that was my thought as well. Just that's a lot to pay up at a position that is. I mean, Lamar Jackson being the mold breaker is still pretty tightly grouped in scoring. So yeah, I like Mahomes better.
I kind of like Russ at 11. That'd be more tournaments.
Yeah, if Mark Ingram right now listed as questionable, I don't think he's practiced yet. They said there's still a chance he plays. That is typically the talk of a player who doesn't play. I would be all over Gus Edwards. He's gotten like 30 some odd carries.
What's his price?
Gus Edwards is, I believe, he's 4,900.
Yeah, he would be egregious chalk.
I just hope we don't get we get Mark Ingram news late in the week, because I would probably go just overweight by a lot, like on Gus Edwards.
Yeah.
Just like we talk about every week, when you get the the chalk running backs when they're low priced, the rate for them hitting is just too high. Where I'll be over the field on him. And we saw in week 17 that they gave him the majority of the carries. He went like for 120 yards. It might have even been 130. And the week before that, with Mark Ingram out, he massively outtouched Justice Hill. Like Justice Hill is no more than a change of pace back. Like he is the backup to Gus Edwards. And I still hope people are like, I don't know if it's like redraft people chasing the Justice Hill sleeper or like what, but I hope people keep playing him because I won't be.
Yeah, I'm not playing Justice Hill in that instance. I'd definitely play Gus Edwards pretty heavily.
Yeah, only other play for me in this game is Marquise Brown, just like low price for his ceiling.
Yeah, I think he's a really good play, actually. Like, I don't mind going him at all.
Yeah, I like they have, I believe, the highest implied team total. Oh, they have the second highest implied team total of the week. And I think he correlates well with Lamar Jackson. So if you think Jackson goes off and you can't get up to him, tapping into that with Marquise Brown, like it's possible that they both go off, but Jackson's price just pushes him out of the optimal lineup.
Yeah, they would be a good correlative set. Nick Boyle and obviously Mark Andrews also in play. I love tight ends versus Tennessee.
Top into our next game, we have Kansas City versus Houston. My guess would be easily the most stacked game of the week. We have KC as 10-point favorites. That line has moved 2 since opening, -8, and a 51 total that has also moved 2. I mean, yeah, this game is great. I think the only like different play I'm going to be having a lot of is Will Fuller, assuming he is active. Like, I'm sure there are a lot of, like, if you simulate the slate, there are a lot of times where he literally gets hurt on the first snap and doesn't do anything. But like he's going to be like probably around about 15%, 20% ownership. What are you looking at him at?
Will Fuller.
Yeah.
Sorry. He is around. My computer's slow. Sorry about that. 14%. I'd be a little nervous to play Will Fuller.
I mean, I think that's what everyone is going to say, because he's like, yeah, he gets hurt, and if he doesn't catch one of his handful of deep balls, he's going to bury you. But like with a potential 0. But we've seen his upside. When you can get a player who literally has like one of the greatest fantasy games of all time upside at 15%, yeah, I'll go, especially against the Chiefs, who are going to force them to throw a massive amount. Yeah, count me in. Just count me in on that 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, he makes for a really good play. The hamstrings kind of bothersome just in terms of he's a receiver. He relies on his speed, and a hamstring injury is not optimal in that situation. So I don't know, at 5K, like it's been 2-3 weeks now. He got the week off last week. Maybe people will take the chance, and cash definitely don't do it. But in tournaments, I guess you can take the chance and pair him with Deshaun if you're doing that. Obviously, we know the split, so.
Yeah, like Deshaun, massively, massively more efficient when Will Fuller's on the field than when he's targeting Will Fuller. I believe his highest adjusted yards per attempt goes to, like, of all of his receivers, goes to Will Fuller by a pretty significant margin. Like, yeah.
So Will Fuller this week, Will Fuller week this year was in Atlanta. And the week after was versus KC. And it could have been 2 Will Fuller weeks in a row. He missed 2 touchdowns in the end zone, just totally. Yeah, so interesting if he connects there. They obviously maybe have game planned that up. So if he's fine, it's not the word. Definitely not bad to take a shot on him in tournaments.
Yeah, on the other side, I think who do you think goes more owned this week, Travis Kelce or George Kittle? I would imagine, I would think probably Kittle. He's 200 cheaper, and I just think he's honestly, I'd project him for potentially more points because I think their scoring is similar in terms of who I expect to score more points as a team, and he controls so much of his offense.
Yeah, this would be I like both of them. If you can get both of them, it's going to be really difficult. Kelsey's a really good play. Love Tyreek though too, so probably definitely prefer Kittle, I would say, in that instance.
Yeah, especially I think with Tyreek, he's a guy who we've seen Kelce go off with his teammates much more often than Tyreek. Just the way in which Tyreek does it, he's a drive killer in a positive way for his team, but not for his teammates. Where like Kelce's best drives are like 3 or 4 catches for 70, I guess probably closer to 40 or 50 yards in a touchdown. Whereas Tyreek gets it done on one play and he makes sure nobody else scores on his drives.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty sharp call. Makes sense, right? With how Tyreek's kind of boomer bust, and it would take away yardage from other players. Yeah, I like Kelce. Like Tyreek, I'd probably make a rule if I'm optimizing and just separate them.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that.
Actually, I don't know. I'm not playing Sammy Watkins, so.
Yeah, I guess that's something we should talk about. Sammy Watkins perennially underpriced in terms of his projection, and he just never hits that projection. He is the worst, man.
He's the worst receiver in the history of the league. He's so bad.
He plays, I don't know, probably ballparking 70 to 75% of the snaps on the same field as Patrick Mahomes and just never gets there. It's impossible. I think he scored more points in week 1 than he did for almost the rest of the season.
It would make sense. The day we both said not to play him, he did that.
And we literally every game since. Every game since, if we just took that advice of Sammy Watkins is bad, don't play him, we would have been right.
So Corey Davis is someone that's going to be like he's priced pretty good.
I mean, he's his own team.
He's terrible.
Yeah, he's his own team, Sammy Watkins.
But he burned everyone. Yeah, he is his own team, Sammy Watkins. He burned everyone last week. So in tournaments, like I don't mind kind of going in that direction.
Yeah, I don't hate going back to a player.
I was just looking at wide receiver ownership, and I was looking above Sammy Watkins, and Corey Davis is a little bit above. I don't know. Someone did on Twitter say that he's like the Tony Snell of the NFL, which would make a ton of sense. Just that he like stands around and doesn't do anything.
Any interest in the? I mean, Josh Hermsmeyer has talked about Sammy Watkins. I think this is while he was with the Rams. He literally just played a decoy role. He was on the field a ton and only played as a decoy. And having not grinded the film on Watkins, it really seems like that's what he's doing this year.
Yeah, it makes sense. He sucks, so that's what they're making him do. They paid him a lot of money to do that, though. I don't know why they did that.
Good for Sammy Watkins, though. What a job! Just run routes like no one's ever going to throw you the ball because they're not, and get paid a ton.
Looking at it, Will Fuller looks like the likely guy to break this slate. I think Marquise Brown will be cash viable for a lot of people too. His ownership's kind of spiked.
He's so cheap is the thing. Like
he's 4-4. Like you can pair him with he's going to be chalky. I think Will Fuller is interesting at 5K now. The more if he's fine and people are skeptical with the hamstring, like I like him. I like Debo as well.
Yep, I like both those guys. Like, give me a full practice for Will Fuller at the end of the week, which I doubt happens. But if he does log a full practice, like I will be just disgustingly overweight on him.
Yeah, you have to be, I feel like.
Yeah. Any interest in Houston running backs, and then I think we can move on.
Duke maybe. Carlos Hyde had a big game versus Kansas City in week 6 or week 7, whenever that game was.
Yeah, I think
I don't want to play Carlos Hyde ever. So
I think the largest product of that was that they won that game, and that's typically
Carlos Hyde's going to be. Looks like he might be kind of owned. Well, he has to be.
everyone's kind of
Ownership on a 2-game slate is a lot different than ownership on like a 14-game slate or a 13-game slate, whatever it is, week to week. If he's around like 17%, that's probably pretty low on a 2-game slate, but that's still what we would imagine to be kind of highly owned. It's still kind of low on a 2-game, so I'm probably getting ahead of myself. But still more than like being under 10%.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's hop into our next game.
Jamal Williams is a nice 10% running back, it looks like.
Yeah, get into it. We have Green Bay, Seattle. Green Bay are 4-point home favorites, a 47.5 point total. It has also come up 1.5 points. Yeah, a very interesting game. I think the first question, I guess, what are you doing? You can talk about it. What are you doing with Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones? Aaron Jones, 7,400, led the league in total touchdowns, like efficiency god. But when Jamal Williams is healthy, he gets the rock. So any interest, I guess, really just talk about your interest in Jamal Williams.
My interest in Jamal Williams, I just think that he's going to be low owned, and usually people go to Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams burns them. So I don't mind a little Jamal Williams. I would not put him in lineups with Aaron Jones. Although you probably could on a 2-game slate, but I think that would be my leverage. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Devontae Adams is another guy like I'm definitely going to play in this game. Metcalf is just a beast. Like I feel like I'd rather roster him than Lockett at this point. And David Moore looks like he'll be relatively chalky comparative to guys like Debo and Will Fuller. So if that's the case, I'd rather roster Debo and Will Fuller. But David Moore is around 15%, 16%. So I don't know.
Yeah, on the David Moore side of things, Jerron Brown, a limited participant in practice. I think there's an earlier report this week that said they expect to have him back. Was basically a non-factor late in the season, but I do think, especially with like Josh Gordon off the team, he could potentially cut into David Moore's like unquestioned number 3 role. And whereas last week he didn't have anyone taking that slice of the pie, so he'd be a guy that I don't know. I'd probably be looking to get like 0 of.
Yeah, it's weird though because they do need a third receiver eventually. So I don't know. He's priced pretty good at 3.9.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I would just play the ownership game with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Metcalf,
they're literally like right now splitting hairs in terms of ownership. Like they're right next to each other.
I guess would you be can I interest you in a double stack, especially if I was running like a stack of this game? I think that would be, both of them can get there on essentially 2 to 3 targets because of the way that.
What about Hollister? Like, I feel like Hollister is going to go really overlooked here, and I like Hollister a lot. I think he's offers some good leverage off Kittle Kelsey ownership.
Yeah, no, I think he'd probably be one of the better tournament. Yeah, man, I'm looking at so much concentrated ownership.
Dude, Hollister should not be like. Hollister is going to be 9% owned, like easily overweight on Hollister, easily.
Yeah, the top 3 tight ends are going to account for, I don't know, probably ballparking it 75% of the ownership, and literally everyone else is just left to fend for themselves.
Yeah, but after Hollister, like it's a significant. Like, do you really want to play Jimmy Graham?
No, I'm not playing Jimmy Graham. Are you kidding me? Yeah, so but like you're saying, like Hollister, I like what I'm taking away is that Hollister is like the only tight end pivot I'm looking at, for me at least.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I like Hollister.
Yeah, and I like me some Russ, so I will definitely have some Hollister. I guess another thing to talk about with Seattle, the split of Travis Homer and Marshawn Lynch. Like any interest in either of those guys?
Definitely not. Uh, definitely not Homer. He kind of burned me though last week, so I don't know. I kind of want to roster Homer. I shouldn't say definitely not Homer. I feel like he's pretty explosive, and it's a PPR site. Marshawn's not going to be used as much in the passing game. So whatever their ownership is, I'll probably have some Homer actually, especially to differentiate Seattle Seahawks stacks. I just can't let my recency bias draw me away from a good play. I think he's a good player, so
Yeah, I
I
think
want
he's a
to
good
hate him.
player too, but I will say we had some coach speak from Pete Carroll saying they want to get Marshawn Lynch more involved. And ironically, last week, Lynch, I believe, got 3 targets and Homer got 1, while Homer outcarried him, which was like the complete role reversal. I don't know. I'd be worried about him.
Yeah, well, that being said, I didn't know that, so yeah, I'd probably be a little bit off Homer and definitely have more exposure to Lynch.
Yeah, and I do think like Pete Carroll's one of these guys that like when he talks about a specific player and talks him up, I think it's more projectable than most that we can expect more from that player. In this case, that being Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah.
On the other side, any interest in the ancillary, like you said, Devontae Adams, one of the better wide receiver plays. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, we know the split between them. Any interest in any ancillary pieces, any Alan Lazards or anyone else?
Alan Lazard, I don't hate. That would be it.
Yeah, that's really all I would be considering.
And he's so capped because he can't run away from anyone. So it's just like
He does seem to be like one of the only players with a consistent role on Green, one of the only ancillary players with like a consistent role on Green Bay. I would say as far as the second and third receiving options go, he seems to be the one that Aaron Rodgers trusts the most. We saw him the last time they played 4 for 69 in a score. Nobody else on the team touched 50 yards outside of Devontae Adams. So
no, I get you. Devontae Adams easily. It's pretty much Devontae Adams and then everyone else on Green Bay.
yeah,
If we're going to play Aaron Jones, I'm not going to play Aaron Jones as much as maybe I will, but I just would rather, if people are going to play him, I'd rather Williams, and that's it.
Yeah, I agree because like when we've seen Jamal Williams on the field, he's getting close to like I think he had a 6-game stretch before getting injured where he averaged just below double-digit carries alone, and he got a lot of run in the receiving game. I enjoy betting against high-owned players who rely so much on efficiency.
Yep.
Like that's so fluky on a week-to-week basis. And Aaron Jones, a legitimate baller, 19 touchdowns, but like if he's going to be a chalky play at running back, just give me all the faith.
No, I'm in lockstep with you.
All right. I guess we have a few questions. In non-Kittle lineups, Jonnu Smith or Rudolph in cash. Catch me dead before I play Kyle Rudolph.
I think you can play Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, and they're 10-point dogs. They're 10-point dogs. If there's any time that we expect the Titans to go away from the run-heavy approach, it would be now. And they have like 2 to 3 viable receivers.
You can play Smith, but don't play him in cash.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
You should be working in Andrews, Kelsey, or Kittle in cash, and I would be prioritizing Kittle.
Yeah, I probably would just completely rule out even Andrews from that conversation.
Yep.
All right. Next question: which QB is going to go the most under-owned? I mean, in my opinion, I think it's going to be on the 4-game slate. It's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. Your low-owned QBs, I mean, in terms of like, I think definitively below 10% are only going to be Ryan Tannehill and Kirk Cousins, and then Jimmy Garoppolo and Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. The next tier, like below 15 to 20%. That's probably where I'm looking because I'm just not interested in Kirk Cousins, and Ryan Tannehill's fine. I think you can make an argument for him.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument with Ryan Tannehill pretty easily. Just from a tournament perspective, outside of that, like no, it's a 4-game slate. Like you make an argument for anyone.
Yeah. I would say for me it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Although the more we talk about it, I do think like how efficient Ryan Tannehill has been at low ownership. I'm interested in that. If it's high ownership, like it's a perfect argument to fade. But if he can keep that up for one more game. And he has to throw more to keep up, that would be the scenario where you want to get on Ryan Tannehill. So the more we talk about him, it's probably Ryan Tannehill, but I'll still be over the field on Jimmy G as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's every single game. I mean, it's a short main slate, so that's not awfully surprising, but that is every game of the main slate, pretty much every fantasy viable player, and the Millie Maker controversy as well, if you tuned in early. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. You can find us on Twitter if you want any news updates. I'm usually retweeting or tweeting stuff about any of them. Really should only be like Will Fuller and Mark Ingram. So not a ton of news. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. You can find me on Twitter.
I think this is like probably one of my last shows. Is this our last show?
I think we have one more. I think we have the next round of playoffs, and that will be everything.
All right, cool.
So we will catch you one more time next week. Find me on Twitter at Kyle Tweets here. Find Bobby at Bobby Gomes DFS. One more time next week. We'll see you then.
Yeah, later.